Hey guys, what's going on? Prince here, and today we're going to be doing my first NFL mock draft for the 2022 draft. Now, this is the first mock draft I've ever done. I've done them just in my free time, just for fun, but I've never actually made a video on something like this. And just a few disclaimers. I don't claim to be an analyst. I don't think I know as much as guys like Bengal or C4, and I certainly don't know as much as a real NFL draft analyst or scouts. This is just my opinion on where I think players might end up and where I would like to see some guys play. Another disclaimer, I'm not the best with names at all. I'll do my best, but I'm definitely not the best when it comes to names. And we're only going to do first round today. That's it, first round. And we're not going to do any trades. We're just going to have a straight draft. So, Giants, even though I think they will trade at least one of those picks for something, they'll have two top 10 picks. The Eagles, I think, will trade as well. Maybe use both to trade up. I'm not sure what will happen there, but today we're just going to go straight through the draft. With that out of the way, let's get into it. So, on the clock, once again, back-to-back years, Jacksonville. Their top needs, wide receiver, tight end. There's no tight ends until the second, third round, maybe, that are worth taking, I'd say. McBride out of Colorado State would be the only one I would consider anywhere, but not at this position at all, obviously. I think they go O-line here, and a name that I see come up quite a bit is Evan Neal, freaking nature athlete out of Alabama. Another name is Ika Makwanu. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Surprisingly, Pro Football Focus has Charles Cross out of Mississippi State, my college. Well, college I root for. It's my dad's college, my granddad's college. It's been the college I root for my whole life, even though I didn't end up going there. But Charles Cross, Mississippi State, that's my guy. I don't think he goes number one, though. I think Okwanu and Neal have secured themselves as the 1 and 2. You can switch it however you would like. But for this purpose, I'm going to have them draft Evan Neal number 1 overall. Now, Lions on the clock. They kind of need everything all over the field, but I would say linebacker is their weakest position on that team. But there's not really any linebackers you would take it to. Maybe this is a trade down position for them, but like I said, in this situation, we're not going to have any trades or anything like that. In my opinion, Kyle Hamilton might be the best player in this draft. He's certainly my favorite player in this draft, outside of Charles Cross, just because I'm biased, but Kyle Hamilton's a freak of nature. Safeties just don't go this high. Last one drafted in this range was, I believe, Jamal Adams. I don't know if they take Kyle Hamilton here. They do need some secondary help, so maybe. I think Derek Stingley's a little high on this projection list. I think Trent McDuffie's insane out of Washington. There's some other good corners, like Gardner out of Cincinnati had some lockdown stats this year. Devin Lloyd is the first linebacker out of Utah, and he's 14th, so you don't take him at 2. They could use edge, but what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to give them Kyle Hamilton out of Notre Dame. I just think he's the best player in the class, and they need that secondary bolstered. I think safety's becoming more and more important in this league with deep over the top quarterbacks. So I think that's a great pick by Detroit. I'm sorry, I just got to laugh here because it says the Texans need every position, and that could not be more true. Now, I think they're going to see what they have in Davis Mills. I don't think they take quarterback here. Their O-line is not good, but it's not the absolute worst part on their team, considering one of their best players is Laremy Tunsil, and he plays that left tackle position. I believe he kind of shuffles about the whole line. I went to high school in Houston, grew up in Houston, so you would think I would know a little bit more about the Texans, but I'm a Patriots fan, so I don't really care about the Texans. But I think what they do here is take the number 1 edge player in this draft, and that's going to be Aiden Hutchinson. Edge is always a position of need. They have no pass rush at the moment. Blacklock's not really a pass rusher, or he hasn't panned out to be as such in this league. I think they'll be happy with Hutchinson at 3. The Jets at 4 here. They could use a receiver. They could also use some secondary help quite desperately. And I think this is maybe where we see Stingley go. But I think McDuffie is a better corner right now than Stingley. Stingley had an unreal freshman year, a little bit of a sophomore slump, and he didn't really play that much this year, if I remember correctly. So I feel like it's a toss up between those two for who could be cornerback one. I think Gardner is also in that mix. So those three, kind of like the Caleb Farley, Pat Surtain, and the J.C. Horn of last year. Honestly, just because I think he's the better prospect right now, I think I'm going to give him Trent McDuffie to the Jets at 4. Now we have the Giants, my least favorite team in the league. Part of me wants to just, scroll all the way down, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be unbiased here. And there's a lot that they need. O-line is definitely up there, and I think they would be ecstatic, with Ika Makwanu here at 5. I think they'd be very happy that he fell to them at 5, thinking maybe that he'd go 1 to Jacksonville, and that maybe some O-line teams like Jets or Texans passed on him. The only reason I didn't have him go to the Jets is because the past 2 years they've gone O-line first round. Like, obviously they had Zach Wilson, but then they traded up for Vera Tucker, Mekhi Becton, previous years. So it is what it is. I think Akwanu would be a good fit in New York, and maybe they can finally have that staple tackle that they've been searching for years. Now we have the Panthers on the clock. Their number one need is quarterback. They just took a corner last year in J.C. Horn. Unfortunately, had a severe injury. They could also use O-line, and I think this is where I'm going to have my boy get selected. Finally, my man Charles Cross out of Mississippi State. Go Dogs. And we got a top 10 pick out of Mississippi State. That's great to see. He's a great prospect. I've seen every Mississippi State game in the last 2 years, and I can tell you that he just bullies people. Like, their best edge rusher, bullied to the ground. Doesn't matter. I think he's going to be an amazing tackle in this league. I hope he is. Otherwise, that take might come back to haunt me. And now we are back to the Giants at 7. They could use edge quite desperately. I don't think they go offensive line back-to-back. There's not really any at this position anyway. You could take corner, although it's not really that big of a need with Bradbury being so good. I think here you go Kayvon Thibodeau, who was the projected number 1 pick, I believe, going into the year. Fell off a little bit, didn't have as productive of a season, but I think he goes at 7 to the Giants here in this situation, and I think they're happy with that. Falcons, interesting position. They have a former MVP quarterback who can play at an all-pro level. We've seen it. I know he's a little older now, but his weapons are all gone. Julio's left. Calvin Ridley, who knows what's going on with him. I find it weird that Drake London is up here as wide receiver 1. I don't know. I would rather have these 4 over Drake London, but maybe I haven't watched enough Drake London. My 2 personal favorites are Chris Olave and Treylon Burks. But, like I said, I'm not an analyst. This is just personal opinion. I'm just a fan, so maybe he's way better. I wouldn't completely know. I haven't watched a whole lot of UFC. Watch a lot of SEC. I watch a lot of, Big Ten, stuff like that. I don't really watch a lot of Pac-12. All right, Falcons. Getting back on track. They could use O-line, they could use D-line, corner, and I think they go corner here. They drafted Kyle Pitts, a weapon, last year, and if they could get 2 lockdown corners with A.J. Terrell and Derek Stingley, I think they'll be very happy with that. I think they'll also be surprised if he's still here, although I think I've given justified reasons for every other player taken, so I don't think it's that much of a reach that Stingley is still here. So I think they get a nice corner pairing there in Atlanta. I'm a firm believer in building up the secondary. I know the go-to is build up the trenches. I think you build up your O-line in your secondary instead of your D-line in your secondary or in your O-line. But that's just me. I'm not a coach. I'm a sucker for cornerback play. Cornerback, probably my favorite position in football. Next to quarterback, obviously, but that's just the most fun. Denver, desperate need of a quarterback. Desperate since Peyton Manning left. They've gone through quite a few quarterbacks, a carousel of quarterbacks. The the quarterback class this year is a little weak compared to previous years. One thing that's funny about this class is that it's so deep in terms of you could find guys that in other years could go back of the first round and top of the second in the fourth. But there's nobody that completely blows you away bona fide number one. Usually you have a few of those guys that you could debate about, but nobody absolutely blows you away as a bona fide star. All right, Denver. If you look at the quarterback situation, Malik Willis has actually overtaken Sam Howell as the number one quarterback. I don't know why Matt Corral is below Desmond Ridder. I don't know. I quite like Carson Strong out of Nevada, and I quite like Kenny Pickett. Being a Mississippi State fan, I had to deal with Matt Corral for a few years, and it wasn't fun. I believe we lost every single Egg Bowl that he started in. That's beside the point. Karlaftis here could be a smart pick, but they said they would explore quarterback. And I can't help but think that quarterback would be what they're thinking here, especially after last year not drafting Mac Jones or Justin Fields. Now, Patrick Surtain's a great corner, an amazing corner. But quarterback's the most important position in football, and maybe this is where we start to see the dominoes fall. Personally, I would take Malik Willis over Sam Howell, but I feel like Elway would pick Sam Howell over Malik Willis. I don't know why. I just feel we'll have to see. I really don't know because Aaron Rodgers could be traded by then. This is really just speculation. But I'm going to give the Broncos Sam Howell at 9. Now the Jets are back on the clock. And previously, I gave them a corner. I think they got to build up that defense. They also need a receiver. I'll give them that. Chris Olave. I hope I'm pronouncing any of that right. I'm probably not, but he had an insane combine today. Like I said, I like Traylon Burks, Jameson Williams. There's a little injury concern, but he was unreal this year. Pro Football Focus has Drake London rated 10th, the highest. I think I got to give him to the Jets here. So Drake London going to New York. They get a corner and a receiver. Now, this is where I think Malik Willis goes to the Washington Commanders. I think he fits that Ron Rivera style offense. Similar, I wouldn't say photocopy Cam Newton, but he's like a more raw Cam Newton. Like you could see the talents there, but not the consistency. Cam Newton was very obviously great in college, won a national championship. Malik Willis has so much raw potential. He's kind of like, in terms of raw potential, not play style, he's like Trey Lance, in my opinion. But I think he could fit well in this Ron Rivera offense. I think him and Terry McLaurin would be an insane duo. That's my justification. So 2 quarterbacks fly off the board here at 9 and 11. Pick 12, the Vikings. Also kind of in need of a quarterback, but they also need a little bit of everything else. I don't know. They do have Cam Dantzler out of Mississippi State as one of their corners. I don't know if he's a good first or second corner, but he's a solid third or rotational corner. And I'm excited to see if he can take that step and maybe be a 1 or 2 corner. But for now, they're still looking for that corner. They're still looking for edge. And I think here what you do if you're Minnesota is your edge rushers are getting up there in age a little bit. And it doesn't help, or it does help to always have more edge rushing. Doesn't hurt to have more of it. They could use interior offensive linemen quite bad, though. And Linderbaum's just sitting there. He's a great center out of Iowa. I thought he was going to go to the draft last year. Ended up staying another year. I think he's a great interior lineman. I think he's the best interior lineman in the class, and I think Pro Football Focus agrees. It's hard here. I don't know what you give them. It's any of these top 3 left on the board. Karlaftis, Gardner, or Linderbaum. That defense is the defense is taking a huge step back. I'm going to give them Ahmad Gardner. Fun pick there, cornerback going to Minnesota. Now here, the Cleveland Browns. This is where you see another receiver come off the board. Jarvis Landry is a free agent, I believe, and they traded away Odell. They need to get Baker a weapon. He's on his prove-it year. He's not going to get extended, but this is If he fails this year, this is his last year as a starter in Cleveland. So they should go all out and try to get him some weapons. And I think Garrett Wilson would be a good pick here for the Cleveland Browns. Baltimore, kind of disappointing season. Injuries riddled them completely. I believe Marlon Humphrey, Lamar Jackson, all of their running backs. Maybe Marquise Brown. I'm not sure. I didn't keep up with the Ravens as much as I probably should. Being a NFL YouTuber, you think I would keep up with all the teams, but some things slip my mind. They are in kind of desperate need of D-line here. But there's not one for a little bit. Like, what's the first rated D lineman? See, I'm just not convinced about it. That would be what you would take here. You can maybe take Karlaftis. Could use some edge presence. They could use corner. They could use linebacker. You know what? They could use linebacker. And I think Devin Lloyd here would be a good fit. They have a good secondary. It's just the front seven need some help on that defense, and then they'll be good. And the Eagles here are going to be ecstatic to get George Karlaftis here at their first round pick. They get that edge piece they need. That was their number one need. And now hopefully they get some more pressure on the quarterback. Here at 16, they're also in need of a linebacker. And national championship linebacker, Nakobe Dean, who's all over the field, is just sitting right there. So they bolster that defense. They get their number one receiver last year. They maybe have their quarterback. If you just build a great defense, let's see what this team can do. They somehow made the playoffs. That was probably the biggest shocker playoff team, I could tell you. Don't know how they made it, but, good for them. Now here, I'm going to go maybe something that might be a slight reach, but maybe not, considering Pro Football Focus has them so high. I don't know if they go receiver here. I know it says it's their number one need. Keenan Allen's still a really good receiver. Mike Williams is solid. I don't think you need insane stars. Keenan Allen's a top 20, arguably top 15 receiver. Mike Williams is solid enough. Your O-line's been greatly improved. I think they go corner here. And Andrew Booth and Trent McDuffie and Ahmad Gardner are my three cornerbacks that I like the most. Nothing against Stingley. He's just been inconsistent the last few years. The talent's there. I think Booth would be a great pick from them here. Bolster that defense. Defense wins championships. Now here, at 18, the New Orleans Saints. They are in need of a receiver quite badly. Their receiver play was awful last year. No Mike Thomas. They had other receivers that were supposed to be great turn out to be not that great. I know they had up and down quarterback play, and they rotated out quarterbacks. Trevor Siemian started. Ian Book started a game. Taysom Hill, Jameis Winston. They had 4 different starters. But you need another receiver because you don't know if Michael Thomas is coming back. And I think here this is where Chris Olave goes. Another Ohio State receiver to pair up next to Michael Thomas. Maybe helps convince him to stay. His alma mater is coming to line up on the other side of the field. I think that's a great pick by the Saints. If I had to pick a second favorite team, it would be the Saints. I grew up in the South. My family are Saints fans. I just happen to drift and be a Patriots fan. But, I root for the Saints when they're not with the Patriots. I hope I don't get crucified for having 2 teams, quote unquote. I really don't. I just have the 1 and the 2. You know what I mean? But the Eagles here, again, picking 3 first-round picks inside the top 20. Hopefully they don't mess up all of them. But, they're the Eagles. They might. I know one of their needs is not linemen, but their line is good, but it's getting old and injury-prone. I think Linderbaum is such an insane interior lineman talent to not take him here. I think if the Eagles can get those 3 players I drafted for them, they're in really good position to make another playoff run next year. Karlaftis, Dean, Linderbaum. That would be insane. Now here, The Steelers are really upset because they want a Malik Willis. But I think they still go out and get quarterback here. I'm going to give them Matt Corral out of Mississippi. Ole Miss. Ole Piss, as I call him. But I'm going to be a little bit more civilized because, Ole Miss fans aren't. So I got to be a little bit civilized. Hail State. And now here. This is where my team finally picks. And there's still a great receiver on the board. Need a deep threat. Go up and get Mac Jones' teammate out of Alabama, Jameson Williams. Would have gone much higher if not for the injury. Oh, God, he's him, Olave, and Treylon Burks. My three favorites in this draft. There's a couple lower ranked guys that I like Justin Ross out of Clemson. I like quite a bit. John Mechie, really good out of Alabama. Where was the other guy I liked? Drummond was really good for Ole Miss the past few seasons. Charleston Rambo, I think is a little bit underrated. I think he could be a good day two receiver. He won't go that high, but I think he's a little bit underrated. All right. We got the Raiders, my second least favorite team. And they need also a receiver, so they're a little upset that the Patriots just stole Jameson Williams. They need receiver, defensive lineman, linebacker, corner. Now, I think corner might be the bigger need here. Kyrie Elam I like quite a bit. Again, if Martin Emerson, my boy, I'm going to miss you. But he's a great corner, too. I think he should go second round. He probably won't, judging by his Pro Football Focus rate. But I think he should. He's a great corner. Underrated. Great on the ball. Anyway, I don't think there's any corner you're in a position to take here that could be useful. They traded away their entire offensive line last offseason for whatever reason. They're another team that's like on the cusp, but they just need something. They need some pizzazz, I guess you could say. Some big explosive play. And they had some great players break out this year. Max Crosby. They have Jonathan Abrams in safety, who had a solid year. Another Mississippi State guy. I think Kenyon Green here is a good pick. I know it's not one of their needs, but it doesn't hurt to bolster the O-line, especially after you traded away your whole O-line last offseason. I know you still made the playoffs, but protection never hurts. All right. The Cardinals also needing some lineman help. They're a little upset that Kenyon Green got drafted, but it's okay because they have a great tackle just sitting there, Trevor Penning, out of Northern Iowa. So they're not too mad about it. You could shift them inside maybe, or shift one of your tackles playing there now inside, because their tackles seem a little slow to me. I don't know. Whenever I watch the Cardinals, it's hard to tell because Kyler Murray's such an escape artist, but their O-line really isn't that good. And guard and center is their big weakness according to Pro Football Focus. So I'm still giving them an O-lineman. I think you could shift one of their tackles. I forget the guy's name on the right tackle, but he could definitely play interior lineman, if I remember right. Dallas Cowboys. Disappointing end to a promising season. You had breakout stars on the defense after having a terrible, terrible defensive year the previous year. Trayvon Diggs and Micah Parsons turned out to be the best player in the draft class from last year, honestly. Jamar Chase up there, obviously, too. Mac Jones. Those guys, the quarterbacks, the most hyped players going in the draft. None of them really shined, except Mac Jones, who was the one that was really frowned upon, I guess. Frowned upon would be the word. Like, everybody thought Mac Jones be the worst of the bunch, but we'll see. I think he's great. I think he's going to get back to Dallas. I get off topic a lot. I'm sorry. Couple of national championship players here from a national championship defense. Trayvon Walker, I quite like a lot. You got good linebacker edge presence with Micah Parsons now. But again, it doesn't hurt to have more on the O-line or the D-line or linebacker. The front seven and the trenches on offense, the offensive line, doesn't hurt to bolster them. And, you know, I think I'm going to give them Raymond here, actually, at Central Michigan. Their problem with O-line is the same as Philadelphia's. Great O-line, injury prone, and older. You got to get younger on the O-line. Because Dak's a lot younger than the offensive lineman. Just going to say it. Now, here, it pains me to pick for the Bills because I'm a Patriots fan, but they do need receiver. I don't know if they bring back Gabe Davis. I don't know if he's a free agent, but he had a good second half to the season. Solid season overall. Obviously, Stephon Diggs is great, but you want to get him open more. He gets double covered a lot because he's the number one threat. Now, if you could get another speedster threat that could take some pressure off Diggs and get him more looks, that'd be great. Treylon Burks, I'm looking at him. I think, man, he'd be good in that Bills offense. I think. But the defense, man, gotta bolster that too. You know what? We're gonna go with the fun pick. I think you need to get Josh Allen as many weapons as possible. Treylon Burks out of Arkansas. I like that. Number 26, the Tennessee Titans. Need tight end. Not happening at this position. Guard, center, or edge. Well, Trayvon Walker is sitting right here for you. So you get your edge piece. The Titans, I believe, if I remember right, somebody will correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, that the Titans were near the bottom in QB pressure, I believe. I believe that's what I saw. Don't quote me on that because my memory is not that great, but, you know, it is what it is. The Buccaneers, in an interesting position, championship roster, lacking a quarterback, with the retirement of Tom Brady. Gone but not forgotten. You have Devontae Wyatt sitting here. I don't know why their need is D-line, because their D-line's pretty good. They have some aging vets on the outside of the D-line, but interior, Vita Vea is just such a monster. Probably the best defensive tackle in football, in my own opinion. I'm probably forgetting somebody. Chris Jones, Mississippi State. Fletcher Cox, Mississippi State. Those guys are great too. Can you tell I like Mississippi State? I'm a little biased. I don't know what the Bucks do. Just looking at the top of the board here. Their corners were lackluster, but they were also hurt. Do they like Sky Moore here out of Western Michigan? Chris Godwin's a free agent. I don't know if Chris Godwin comes back without Tom Brady. We're playing it as Tom Brady stays retired. They need another receiver. If Godwin leaves, I'm going to have him draft Sky Moore out of Western Michigan. Green Bay on the clock here. They could use a receiver, but I don't know who you take here. Pickens fell down the board quite a bit. He was up there. I think you go receiver second round if you're Green Bay in this position. You could use some offensive line. It doesn't hurt to get some edge, though. Why not get David Ajabo here? Again, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. All right, Miami Dolphins get San Francisco's pick. There's Miami is a little disappointing this year. Unfortunately, they weren't disappointed when they beat the Patriots twice, but that's, Miami versus New England in a nutshell. Trash against everybody else, good against Patriots. Who knew? Xavier Howard is a great corner. They don't really need corner. I don't think they draft a corner here. I feel like they could use D-line. I feel like they just have a bunch of average D-linemen and some average edge players. I'm looking at Jermaine Johnson here. And I don't know. I'm sorry if I went silent there for a second. I'm just really thinking. His draft stock has gone up quite a bit. Most drafted by these teams. He's pretty high in the ranking. This would be about where he would go, I imagine. I think he's raw and he has good potential. I don't know if we saw enough at Florida State, but we're going to have the Dolphins take a chance on him. At 29, the Kansas City Chiefs. I think this is where you go corner. I like Kyer Elam here out of Florida. Bolster that secondary. That defense has to get better. It picked it up in the second half of the season, really let them down in the beginning of the season. Bengals. This is where you go O-line. Now, who do you draft here in terms of O-line? Zion Johnson's not bad out of Boston College. A little bit of a reach. All the good linemen are really gone here. The first one available is Zion Johnson. But they really need a tackle more than an interior. I don't really know who they pick here. With what's available to them with this board in this situation. Devonta Wyatt doesn't hurt. They could use some. They have some good edge pieces. I'm not sure about their talent. I forget who starts on the interior for them. You know, just because of the talent pool at this position in the draft, I think Devonta Wyatt would be the better pick here for them. And we end it with the Lions. Maybe this is where you take a backup under Jared Goff for a year, because I really don't think Jared Goff's going to be your answer. I don't know if Desmond Ridder is the guy you take here, though. I think they draft Kenny Pickett here. Let's see what Pro Football Focus says about my draft. Well, I guess this can just be more of a recap. I guess they don't grade it. Okay. Well, there you go, guys. That is my first NFL mock draft I've ever done. I know I wasn't the most professional. It was really just me trying to have some fun with this. And I hope you guys don't crucify me if I made any absolutely terrible picks. I know who all these guys are. I'm not an analyst. I don't watch and break down game film. I just watch the games, and this is just who I like at these positions. If you want to check out maybe a more in-depth mock draft, check out Bengals' YouTube channel. He's great. He's my favorite Madden YouTuber. I think he's very knowledgeable in what he does, but he also is not an analyst. Analysts are not always right either. None of us are ever right. This is really just speculation, personal opinion thrown in the mix. I mean, I doubt people have Sam Howell going to Denver at 9. That's just what I put. I think they're desperate for quarterback. So, if you guys like the video, be sure to leave a like, comment below. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.